That's okay. Not yet. They're waiting for. There we are. We're all hooked up and we're ready to go. So I have 6:01. I'm going to call the meeting to order now. In response to COVID-19, we continue to hold council meetings electronically, and members of the public are invited to participate in this meeting by accessing the meeting, which will be live streamed on our Middlesex Centre YouTube channel. I'm going to ask councillors if anyone has pecuniary interest to disclose. Seeing none, then the motion before us is that council adjourn the regular meeting in order to sit as the Committee of Adjustment under Section 45 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, as amended, to consider minor variance applications listed on the July 14th, 2021 agenda. Members of the public that are participating virtually in this evening's meetings have previously notified the municipal clerk in advance of the meeting. If anyone wishes to receive further notification on any of the minor variance applications being considered tonight, I ask that you please send an email to planning@middlesexcentre.on.ca requesting further notification. Please be advised that comments expressed and written material presented are a matter of public record for full disclosure. If you have any questions on any of the applications that are being heard this evening, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner on file. Members of the public that have requested to speak will be given a maximum of 10 minutes to address council and provide comments on the applications. In keeping with our procedural bylaw and our zone policy, I would remind all of our meeting participants to use respectful language and uphold our values of cooperation, trust, and openness. I'm just going to review the order of proceedings, and they are as follows. First, I will ask the planner to explain the purpose of the application and hearing and to present the staff report. The applicant and or their agent has an opportunity to speak to the application. Then the public who have registered to participate will be asked for their comments and questions. Please ensure that you state your name and address so that comments can be reflected in the minutes. The municipal clerk will provide any additional comments received from circulated agencies and the public not included in the planning report. The committee will then be able to ask questions of the applicant and or staff. And finally, then I will ask council to consider motion, or the committee to consider motions with respect to the applications. So starting with consent applications 12, 13, and 18, and minor variance application A12 of 2021. I'll turn it over to Dan Fitzgerald, the planner, to give an overview of the report. There you are. The floor is yours, Dan.
Through the chair, thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the committee. So the purpose of the application before committee now and subsequently council tonight is with respect to a concurrent minor variance application and consent applications. The purpose of which is to permit the creation of 2 new residential lots, as well as a shared access easement on Kamoka Road. The effect of the proposal would be to permit the construction of 2 new residential dwellings on separate lots in Kamoka. I'm going to share my screen. Hopefully everyone can see that there. So just to point out to the committee tonight, the minor variance is intricately tied to the consent applications. So as such, staff have opted to present all the applications together in committee tonight, where a vote can occur on the minor variance. And then just as a note, a separate vote will need to occur on the consent applications once council has entered into the public meeting portion. But just for consistency's sake, I'll address it all now, and we can address it now. But just for clarification, a vote will have to occur for the public meeting on the consent portion of the items. The subject property is a 0.95 acre residential parcel, which is located in the Kilworth Kamoka settlement area on the northeast corner of the intersection at Kamoka Road and Simcoe Avenue, and is municipally known as 22700 Kamoka Road. The property does contain an existing single detached dwelling, as well as an associated detached accessory structure. It is on full municipal services and does have access from Kamoka Road. The land is designated settlement area in the county official plan, residential in Middlesex Center's official plan, and is zoned an urban residential first density exception UR1-3 zone in the comprehensive zoning bylaw. The lands are surrounded by residential development in the form of single detached dwellings to the north as well as the east, an industrialized zone parcel to the west, and an active Canadian National Railway right-of-way to the south. A location map, as can be seen here, is included as attachment 1 to the planning report. The application would permit the creation of 2 new residential lots, one fronting onto Kamoka Road with a frontage of approximately 16.74 meters on Kamoka Road and with an area of approximately 1,004 square meters. And this is identified as parcel 1, which is seen here as attachment 2 in the planning report. The second would have a frontage of approximately 32.96 meters on Simcoe Avenue, with an area of approximately 1,706 square meters, and is identified as parcel 2, again on attachment 2 of the planner's report. And the retained parcel is proposed to have a frontage of approximately 27.2 meters on Kamoka Road in an area of approximately 1,086 square meters. The applicant, in consultation with the county engineer, has also proactively applied for a shared access easement between parcel 1 and the retained parcel in order to respect the county's concerns with increasing access points to Kamoka Road, as well as to ensure safety of residents due to the proximity of an existing intersection and railroad crossing at Kamoka Road and Simcoe Avenue. Additionally, the applicant has also applied for the minor variance to reduce the minimum permitted lot frontage requirement for parcel 1. So as applied, the application would permit a minimum lot frontage of 16.74 meters, whereas the Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw, based on the UR13 zone, would require a minimum frontage of 24 meters. Notice of the application has been circulated to the public as well as agencies in advance in accordance with the Planning Act requirements. Planning did not receive any comments from the public with respect to the proposal. Comments from internal and external agencies, as identified in the planning report, have been included and have also been included as recommendations and conditions for the consents. The provincial policy statement, the county official plan, as well as the local official plan, generally do permit lot creation and do promote infill and intensification to achieve growth objectives within existing settlement boundaries where it is deemed appropriate. The subject lands are municipally serviced and abut an existing municipal road. Services on Simcoe Ave would need to be slightly extended to service the severed lot or parcel 2, which has been included as a condition of the consent application. The 2 proposed lot creations as well as the retained are able to meet the minimum area requirements as identified in the zoning bylaw. Parcel 1, as indicated, would require the passing of a minor variance as concurrently applied to meet the minimum lot frontage requirement. This development is the preferred form as it does promote a more efficient use of land and infrastructure while also reducing the need for expansions of the existing settlement area boundaries. So given the above, planning staff are recommending that the minor variance application as well as the concurrent consent applications be approved, subject to all the conditions that are outlined in the planning report. So thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions that committee or council may have in this on this application.
Thank you for that report, Dan. I'll turn now to Lisa Buren, who is the applicant and has registered to speak to the application.
Hi, I don't specifically have anything to say. I think Dan covered it, covered everything, all the steps that we've already taken and the nature of the applications, unless anyone has any questions.
Okay, we may get to those later. Thank you, Lisa. There are no additional comments that have been received by the clerk. I'll turn to the committee then and ask for questions from committee members. Councillor Heffernan.
The Mayor, to Dan. I'm just curious about condition, let me see here. Condition 13 indicates 15 meters from the center line is the boundary, which is typical. And then condition 14 has the owner dedicating 0.3 meters of a reserve to Middlesex County. I'm just curious why it's not included in the first 15 meters and why it's a separate little thing.
Through the chair, yes. So effectively, the 15 meters dedication from the center line of the road is to ensure that the Kamoka Road, which is under, I guess, care and control of the county, is expanded to the minimum requirements for that particular road classification. So it's kind of outside and beyond what the reserve would do. That is just basically to guarantee that the minimum size of road requirement for future upgrades and development is maintained through this particular application. The 0.3 meter reserve, which is located basically at the boundary of the land, is specifically requested both along Kamoka Road as well as Simcoe Avenue. And the purpose for doing that is actually to limit any potential future access to the property. So in this particular case, the only entrance that would be permitted is the one as identified by, in the case of the municipality, the one on Simcoe Avenue, and then in case of the county, the one on Kamoka Road, which is shown as the shared access easement. And the reason for doing that is basically to not permit any potential future changes to access to this particular property. There are concerns about its location close to the railroad crossing at Simcoe Avenue and Kamoka Road, and so the county engineer, as well as Public Works and Engineering for the municipality, did think it would be necessary in this particular case to limit that, or basically guarantee that for the future through that 0.3 meter reserve on the applicant's land. So that would be maintained in ownership, basically by the county on Kamoka Road as well as by the municipality on Simcoe Avenue.
Are there other questions? Councillor Cates?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Dan, it just on the what you just talked about. One thing that I was curious about with the shared driveway. So I'm curious. Is it to do with how close it is to the railway? So, for example, if the people, one property north and then two properties north, if they were to ever subdivide off a portion of theirs, would they probably have to have a mutual drive as well? Or
through the chair to Councillor Cates, generally speaking, it's typically the mandate of the county to limit potential access points through severance to county roads. And that's basically to limit potential conflict and safety of future motorists in the areas. So generally speaking, the county would likely require a condition in the same fashion on if there is a future severance to a lot, adjacent to the north of here, that if for consideration, they would also be subject to a potential shared access easement. And that's basically to limit the amount of access points onto Kamoka Road as a county.
Thank you.
Councillor Arts.
Excuse me. Through you, Madam Mayor, I guess this would go to the applicant. Like, we're making a minor variance for the width of this lot. I'll go along with that, but if you come back and all of a sudden you want the side yards a minor variance because the house doesn't fit, I'll say no to that one. Thank you.
Is there anyone else? I don't see any additional questions. So there is a motion before us that minor variance application A12 2021 filed by Burcon Homes Incorporated for relief from the comprehensive zoning bylaw in order to establish a minimum frontage requirement of 55 feet, whereas Middlesex Center comprehensive zoning bylaw requires a minimum frontage of 79 feet for a property legally described as lot 4 to 5 and part of lot 3, Block R, Plan 109 in the County of Middlesex, Municipality of Middlesex Center, and municipally known as 22700 Kamoka Road be granted, subject to the following condition: that the minimum frontage reduction apply to the portion lands identified as parcel 1 on the attached severance plan, and that the reasons for granting the minor variance application A12 2021 are that the request complies with the general intent and purpose of Middlesex Center's official plan, complies with general intent and purpose of our comprehensive zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature, and the request represents appropriate development on the subject property. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Shipley, all in favor? And that, any opposed? No. Okay, I wasn't sure I saw a hand. Okay, it's unanimous. So that then is granted. I just want to make a note for participants, just to reiterate about the other part. The recommendation for the consents then, B12, B13, and B18 2021, are going to be considered during the next public meeting for planning items. And having said that now, I'm going to read the motion to adjourn to a public meeting. The motion is that Committee of Adjustment does now adjourn at 6:18 p.m. and Council reconvene to resume the July 14th Council meeting, and that Council move into public meetings at 6:18 pursuant to the Planning Act to consider the applications listed on the July 14th Council agenda. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Cates and Councillor Heffernan, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. So now we are sitting in public meeting. The remarks that I just made with respect to our previous meeting apply. I just will reiterate that if anyone wants to receive any further notifications, they need to send an email to planning@middlesexcenter.on.ca. Remember, please, that comments expressed in written material presented are a matter of public record. And if you have any questions on the applications tonight, we ask that you direct those to the appropriate planner. I don't think we have anyone speaking tonight, so I will skip that. The procedure is basically the same as we just followed in our previous committee meeting. I'll ask the planner to explore the content of the application, and then we'll ask the applicant or agent to comment. The public can join in then if there's anyone who has a question. I remind you to state your name and address so that the comments can be reflected in the minutes. The clerk will provide any additional comments, then I'll ask you, council, to speak to the applicant, and then we'll consider motions regarding the application. So now we can move ahead to the consent applications. And let's see. Okay. Oh, to do back again. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is the matter continued for the, yeah. So the motion that we have to now consider is that the applications B12, B13, and B18 2021 filed by Burcon Homes Incorporated in order to sever 2 residential lots with 1 retained. The first with a frontage of approximately 55 feet on Kamoka Road with an area of approximately 0.248 acres. The second with a frontage of about 108 feet on Simcoe Avenue with an area of about 0.42 acres. And the retained parcel with a frontage of about 120 feet on Kamoka Road, and to establish a 3-meter wide shared access easement as depicted on the attached severance plan on a property legally described as lot 4 to 5 and part lot 3, block R, plan 109 in the County of Middlesex, Municipality of Middlesex Center, and municipally known as 22,700 Kamoka Road be granted. and that the consents B12-13 be subject to the 18 conditions that are noted in the report that we just looked at, and that consent B18 be subject to 6 conditions noted in the report recommendation. And further, that the reasons for granting the consent applications 12, 13, and 18 include: the proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement, it conforms to the County of Middlesex official plan and the Middlesex Centre official plan, the proposal is capable of complying with the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaw subject to a minor variance, and the proposal represents appropriate land use planning. If I could have a mover, please, and a second. Councillor Cates and Deputy Mayor Brennan, all in favor? And none opposed. So that motion is carried. Thank you. Now we can move to consent application B9 and 10 and zoning bylaw amendment Z9/2021. And Dan, you are presenting. The floor is yours.
Good, Chair. Thanks, Madam Mayor and members of council. The purpose of this particular application from council tonight is with respect to a concurrent zoning bylaw amendment, as well as consent applications. The consent applications are seeking to sever an existing natural heritage feature from a farm parcel and to establish a shared access easement on the revenant parcel in favor of the severed lands, while also rezoning the severed portion to an open space zone for conservation, and also rezoning the remnant farm parcel to an A3 site specific zone, A1 site specific zone to recognize the undersized nature of the lands. The effect of the proposal would be to permit the natural heritage feature to be owned and protected by a non-for-profit land trust to preserve and protect the land from any future development. So hopefully everyone can see that map. The subject property is a 51.3 acre agricultural parcel of land that is located on the west side of Woodhall Road, north of the intersection at Woodhall and Longwoods Road. It is municipally known as 3345 Woodhall Road. The property does contain 2 existing accessory buildings, agricultural lands which are in crop protection, and a large portion of the lands to the rear of the property, which is regulated by the Upper Thames Conservation Authority, is also identified as a natural heritage feature, as well as a significant woodland and Middlesex Natural Heritage System study. The land is designated agricultural area in the Middlesex County official plan, agricultural in the Middlesex Center official plan, and a zone agricultural A1 zone in Middlesex Center's comprehensive zoning bylaw. Overall, the land in question has a frontage of approximately 272 meters on Woodhall and an area of 51.3 acres. And it represents a legally non-compliant lot due to the reduced lot area requirements of the agricultural A1 zone, which does require a minimum size of 100 acres. A location map has been provided as part of the planning report and is provided to council to view. The applicant is requesting to sever the rear portion of the existing parcel, being an area of approximately 5.33 hectares or 13.17 acres from the larger 20.75 hectare agricultural parcel of land. The remnant farmland parcel would be approximately 15.42 hectares or 38.1 acres. As the land would not maintain legal frontage, the applicant has also applied for a concurrent parcel from Woodhall Road. Concurrently, the applicant has also applied for a zoning bylaw amendment, which would rezone the severed lands from an agricultural A1 zone to a site-specific open space exception zone, which would only permit conservatory uses of the property. Additionally, the remnant farmland is proposed to be rezoned to a site-specific agricultural exception zone, which would recognize the undersized nature of the agricultural land. The application was circulated in advance of the public hearing tonight and in compliance with the Planning Act. 2 comments were received from the public, both in support of the proposed severance for conservation purposes. Additionally, comments provided by internal and external agencies have been included as conditions of the consent application, and no one raised any objections. So as noted in the planning report, the applicant's request to sever, consent to sever, consent for easement, and zoning bylaw amendment are based on their intent to gift a portion of land to the Thames Talbot Land Trust for the purpose of preserving an environmentally sensitive tract of land within the Digman Creek corridor. As a non-for-profit, board-directed body, the Thames Talbot Land Trust represents as close to a public body whose goal is to preserve natural environments and to protect them from development in perpetuity. The provincial policy statement, county official plan, as well as the municipal official plan generally encourage the protection of environmentally sensitive heritage features and do permit conservatory measures to ensure that their continued existence is maintained through severances. Given the above, planning staff are recommending that consent applications B9/2020 and B10/2021 be approved subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. Additionally, planning staff are recommending that the concurrent zoning bylaw amendment application, which is Z9/2021, be approved, and that the bylaw be forwarded for consideration once a deposit reference plan has been received by the municipality. Thank you, and I'm certainly available to answer any questions as they may arise.
Thank you for that report. And we have Eric and Karen Ausink, who are the owners and have registered to speak on the application online. Oh, that would be okay. Oh, Daria there. Okay. Yes, I didn't look to the next one. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, so we'll move on then. Daria Krasinski of the Thames Talbot Land Trust is on the line, and the floor is yours, Daria, if you're there.
I am here.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Good evening to council and members of the public that are attending. So as mentioned, my name is Daria Kaczynski, and I'm the Executive Director of Thames Talbot Land Trust. Speaking on behalf of the Land Trust and also the applicants, Karen and Eric Ausins. They are applying for the consent and zoning bylaw amendment that was just discussed. We just wanted to provide some context for this project and give you a bit of a background on the Land Trust. So incorporated in 2000, Thames Talbot Land Trust is a registered charity with a mission to protect, conserve, and restore nature within Elgin, Middlesex, Oxford, and Perth counties, contributing to a stable climate, human well-being, and healthy habitats for all species. Our work is specifically focused on the permanent protection of land and all the living things that call it home for the long term. One of the ways we accomplish this is through land acquisition. It's either by purchase or by donation. By holding title, we are able to manage properties to, above else, protect their conservation values. Once we commit to a nature reserve, we promise to take care of it forever. So pledging to protect our sites in perpetuity is one that the Trust does not make lightly. I'd like to assure you that TTLT is well positioned to carry out its mandate over the long term. First, our bylaws and policies are all structured with a view to long-term sustainability. We abide by the Canadian Land Trust Alliance standards and practices, which are guidelines for the responsible management of land trusts, both financially and from a land stewardship perspective. As well, we are part of the Ontario Land Trust Alliance, which is an umbrella organization that supports and facilitates the efforts of approximately 30 local land trusts across Ontario. Furthermore, we are a vibrant and growing organization with approximately 200 members, 4 staff, and dozens of active volunteers. Over the last 2 decades, we have developed a proven track record and become a highly respected member of the regional conservation community. We currently protect more than 1,900 acres across 20 nature reserves. To ensure we have the financial resources to manage our properties in perpetuity, we make stewardship funding a component of every capital campaign. To date, we have approximately $1 million invested with the London Community Foundation to support this work. The annual income from this permanent endowment will support our stewardship efforts in perpetuity. With land acquisition by conservation authorities in Ontario parks severely curtailed in recent years, It has been land trusts that have been at the forefront of securing new conservation lands in southern Ontario. Collectively, Ontario's land trusts now have over 100,000 acres under their care. The project before you today is intended to create a permanently protected nature reserve. The Ozons have long been dedicated to nature conservation and are taking the step to create the Ozons Nature Sanctuary, a permanently protected natural area that will be owned and managed by Thames Talbot Land Trust. The consent would allow the severance of 5.33 hectares of natural lands along the Dingman Creek that would then be transferred to TTLT to create part of the Ozons Nature Sanctuary. A similar proposal on adjacent lands in the City of London would contribute another 15 hectares of land to this nature reserve. Once held by Thames Talbot Land Trust, these lands will be protected and remain in a natural state forever. Our bylaws and policy do not allow the Land Trust to sell or dispose of lands we have committed to, and even in the unlikely event that we were to dissolve, our lands would be transferred to another conservation organization. These protected lands would ensure that aquatic and terrestrial wildlife can thrive for many generations. The lands will also count towards Canada's goal to protect 25% of lands and waters by 2025. Although some TTLT nature reserves have public trails, these lands will not, given the lack of road frontage and the required easement for access. The Land Trust will go to the property for maintenance and management purposes and may occasionally hold events on the site, but there will not be general public access. Our number one priority is to ensure the protection of its biodiversity. While the Trust already holds several properties in Middlesex County, the Ozons property is our first candidate site in Middlesex Centre, and we are excited about the prospect of permanently protecting this part of the ecologically important Dingman Creek corridor. Approved conservation severances in other local municipalities have already allowed us to protect several other sites in Middlesex, Elgin, and Oxford counties. We hope you will support this proposed severance to help protect biodiversity in our region. We are facing dual crises of climate change and biodiversity loss, and protecting natural lands can help with both issues. These lands provide important ecosystem services, such as cleaning the air we breathe, sequestering carbon from the atmosphere, and holding water and wetlands to reduce flooding. These same lands are home to some of Ontario's and Canada's rarest species. We can protect wildlife and create vibrant and healthy communities by ensuring we protect natural lands. This project is an opportunity to create a permanently protected nature sanctuary that will benefit both wildlife and human beings. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the application. We'd be happy to answer any questions that members might have. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Daria. That was very enlightening, and I learned something. So that was great. We have not had additional comments from anyone else, and so I will now turn to the committee to ask any questions. I don't see any, so we do have a motion before us, which is that zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 09-2021 as amended for 3345 Woodhull Road, filed by Eric and Karen Ausins to rezone the severed parcel from agricultural A1 zone to site-specific open space exception OS number zone to limit the use of lands to conservation and to rezone the retained parcel from agricultural A1 to site-specific agricultural exception A1 zone to permit the undersized nature of the lands as depicted on the Schedule A be approved, and that the bylaw be brought forward to, for consideration once a satisfactory deposit reference plan has been provided to this municipality. And that the reasons for granting zoning bylaw amendment application Z9-2021 include the following: consistency with the provincial policy statement would be maintained, conformity with the County of Middlesex official plan and the Municipality of Middlesex Centre official plan would be maintained, and the requirements of the Municipality of Middlesex Centre's zoning bylaw are capable of being satisfied through an amendment thereto. Oh, there's more. Sorry. Okay, sure. It's one. Okay, I'll keep reading then. And the consent recommendations are the consent applications B9-2021 and B10-2021 filed by Eric and Karen Ausins in order to sever a parcel with an area of approximately 13.17 acre and retained having an area of approximately 38.1 acre, and to establish a shared access easement for the retained lands to the severed lands on a property municipally known as 3345 Woodhull be granted. And that consent application B9-2021 2021 be subject to the 10 conditions noted in the report recommendation, and that consent B10 2021 be subject to 6 conditions noted in the report recommendation. And further, that the reasons for granting the consent applications include the following. Proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. Proposal conforms to both the county and the Middlesex Centre official plans, and the proposal is capable of complying to the Middlesex Centre comprehensive zoning bylaws subject to a minor variance. If I could have a mover, please, and a second. Councillor Ards and Councillor Cates. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for that. And we can now move to item 4.2. And Marion Cabral is going to be the planner presenting this report. This is with respect to 2312 Sunningdale Road West. There you are. Hello.
Hi, Madam Mayor and Council.
Anytime you're ready, Marion.
Thank you. I will just share my screen. Okay, so the municipality has received a zoning bylaw amendment application for a temporary use for the lands known as 2312 Sunningdale Road West. The purpose of this report is to make a recommendation on the requested rezoning for a temporary use temporary use to permit the construction of a new single detached dwelling while living in the existing single detached dwelling. The temporary use would only be applicable for a period of up to 3 years, and upon expiration, the existing residence would need to be removed or, as requested by the applicant, converted into an agricultural building for the purposes of processing and packaging flowers that are grown on their property. So the subject lands are approximately 45 acres in area and contain one single detached dwelling, as well as agricultural land that is currently in crop production. The applicant has also provided some images of their current flower beds, which are proposed to be expanded in the future as well. I will note that in my report, I had indicated that the property is serviced by municipal water and a septic system. However, I will confirm that it is running on private well water as well as a private septic system. The lands are located on the north side of Sunningdale Road, west and east of Dunfield Road, abutting the City of London boundary. So the requested application is generally consistent with the policies of the PPS, the County Official Plan, and Middlesex Centre Official Plan as it relates to permitting a farm-related dwelling. Additionally, the proposed agricultural use of that existing building, once converted, is also in conformity with local and provincial policies for agricultural areas. This application to area residences, agencies, and staff. Staff did not receive any comments from any area residents or any agencies as well. Municipal staff have no objections to the proposal. However, building services have requested that the applicant obtain a change of use permit to convert that single detached dwelling to an agricultural building if demolishing is not proposed. And Public Works and Engineering have requested that the applicant submit a deposit of $10,000 and enter into an agreement with the municipality to ensure that the conversion or the removal of that existing residence is completed once the new residence is occupied. And this request and the draft of the agreement were provided to the applicant ahead of this meeting. So as such, planning staff have determined that the requested zoning bylaw amendment for a temporary use zone for a period of up to 3 years is consistent with all applicable policies, including the Middlesex Centre Official Plan. As such, staff recommend the application be approved and that the owner enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and require the conversion or the removal of the existing dwelling and submit a deposit of $10,000 to the municipality. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for that report. Michelle Dornborsch is the applicant and has registered to speak to the application. Would you like to speak, Michelle?
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of council. Are you able to hear me?
Very clearly, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have the greatest cellular service, so I'm just going to keep my video off just to avoid any glitches with the service. As you mentioned, my name is Michelle Dornbush. I'm with Brock Development Group. I'm acting on behalf of the property owners, Arjang and Alex Yazdani. They are proposing, as per the staff report, to build a new dwelling on the property. The last year to 2 years, they have been growing flowers on the property, and that continues to expand. And they are looking to, once the new dwelling is complete, they would like to convert the existing dwelling into a facility that will allow them to store equipment and process the wholesale sale of the flowers that are grown on the property. I've reviewed the staff report. We have no concerns with the recommendation and no concerns with the agreement or security being proposed by staff. And we will go through the necessary steps to ensure that the existing dwelling is converted properly to meet the requirements for an agricultural building as opposed to a single detached dwelling. If council, members of council have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, we're satisfied with what staff is recommending.
Thank you very much. No additional comments have been received by the clerk. I will turn to the committee then for questions. I don't see any questions, so we have a motion before us. That zoning bylaw amendment application ZBA 11/2021 filed by Arjang and Carol Alexandra Yazdani permit to permit 2 single detached dwellings on one property for up to 3 years to allow a new residence to be constructed on land be approved, and that the owner be required to enter into a temporary use agreement with the municipality and submit a deposit of $10,000 to ensure the conversion or removal of the existing residence. The owner must also obtain a change of use permit if they are to convert the existing dwelling. Could I have a mover, please, and a seconder? Councillor Scott and Councillor Shipley. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to the end of the planning matters. We still have to deal with bylaws. The motion before us is that bylaws 2021, numbers 71 through 73, be adopted as printed. Could I have a mover, please, and a second? Councillor Heffernan and Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. And that brings us to the end of the meeting. The motion before us is that the Council for the Municipality of Middlesex Centre adjourns the July 14th, 2021 council meeting at 6:44 p.m. A mover, please, and a seconder. Councillor Scott and Councillor Cates, all in favor? And that is it. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you next time. Good night.